in India, in Hindi, the word Josh is said as Josh. And Josh means like energy and enthusiasm. So yeah, we could do with some Josh now, right? After one lunch and a little bit of sleepiness. And how many of you are still jet lagged? Right? Yeah, so I don't know what I can do to help, but at some point we are going to do what's called a presence practice. And I hope that will energize us. But I have just about an hour and 15 minutes, and I have a lot of ground to cover, because I'm trying to give you a power pill, a capsule of 20 years of work. Okay, in about an hour and 15 minutes. So there's a lot. It feels simple, but it's a deeply layered body of work. And a very quick personal background to me. All the work I do, currently I am called Distinguished Professor in Gender and Conscious Leadership with Business School and School of Humanities and Education at Tec de Monterrey. They have a program called Faculty of Excellence, where they want to hire 100 subject matter experts from around the world. And I happen to get invited to be one of them. And because of these two books that I wrote, and those two books are the 20-year journey. The first book I wrote is called My Cancer is Me, The Journey from Illness to Wholeness, that I wrote with my husband, and based on his recovery from colon cancer. And everything that we learned, we created a holistic and integrative methodology to heal through chronic and lifestyle diseases. I ran an integrative medicine clinic for 10 years. All that became my first book, My Cancer is Me, which is so directly related to our well-being project. And 3 years later, so 2016 was My Cancer is Me with Hay House, and that was 2013. 2016 is Shakti Leadership, Embracing Feminine and Masculine Power in Business. This I wrote with Professor Raj Sisodia. He's the co-founder of the Conscious Capitalism Movement. I don't know if any of you have heard of that. So they have many chapters around the world. And Raj and I got acquainted back in 2010, and that's when we were discussing the 4 tenets of conscious capitalism. One is that your business should have a higher purpose beyond profit. The second is that you should have all your stakeholders integrated in your success. You know, your employees, the environment, society at large, not just your shareholders, okay? The third tenet is that your organization should have a conscious culture built on love and care, not the usual fear-based win-lose ugly competition, right? And the fourth tenet of conscious capitalism is having conscious leaders. That to create a conscious company, you first need a leader who is conscious, who has done the hard work of inner transformation. Because unless a leader does that work of inner transformation, they're not really going to know how to have a higher purpose to business, how to create stakeholder integration, how to have cultures built on love and care, right? So it all begins with having a conscious leader. So I said to Raj, John Mackey and he wrote the book Conscious Capitalism, and I said to him, it's such a great combination. John is American, Raj is Indian. I said, if capitalism is the genius of America, consciousness is the genius of India. Right? So I said, let's give the world a model for conscious leadership that works not just for the West, but also the East, North, South, that works not just for men, but for all genders, because typically most leadership models out there have been made mainly by Western male mindsets, right? And it comes from the militaristic model. So with this thought is how the idea of Shakti Leadership came about, and Bennett Kohler became our publisher. This book came out in 2016, that's 8 years now. It's out now in Hebrew, in Israel, it's in Portuguese, in Brazil, it's in Russian. It's interesting how this book is in Russia and Israel, right? So we kind of be Trojan horses and go into all these spaces and try and create change from the inside out, right? Find new leadership models where these places have so much conflict. So that's a brief background to me and my work. I'm also a yoga teacher, I'm a spiritual coach and mentor. I'm an interfaith enthusiast. I go and practice all the wisdom and wellness traditions I can find from around the world. So I'm as much of a mad Sufi as I am a compassionate Buddhist doing her metta practice, as I am a yogini. All this comes together under the teachings of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother, who are some of India's greatest spiritual masters. Have you heard of a place called Pondicherry in India? And then near Pondicherry, there is a city of tomorrow called Auroville, right? Where they're really trying to work out what is the city of tomorrow going to be? What is conscious architecture? What is conscious agriculture? What is conscious music? What is conscious everything, right? So if you ever find your way to India, go make a trip to Auroville and look at all the cutting edge work happening there. Of course, it's all grounded on principles of well-being and regeneration, all the rest of it. So this is the philosophy and the background from which I do my work. The integrative medicine model is based on integral yoga, and so is the conscious leadership model of Shakti leadership. So just to give a bow to all my teachers, you will see I'm a big fan of Joseph Campbell and Carl Jung, and I just love putting it all together. So I really enjoyed the hero journey piece this morning. So let's dive in. Presence and flex. So we have a fierce urgency of now, right? We have a world in a crisis, and this is now well known that it's the poly crisis ultimately comes down to two things, right? It's not just an environmental crisis, it's not just an epidemic of mental health breakdown, it's not just corruption in politics and business. It's essentially one crisis, and that is the Aurobindonian view, right? That it's a crisis of consciousness. The famous Einstein quote, the problem cannot be solved at the level at which it's created. So all of us as a species are as yet not conscious enough. We are still unconscious, which is why we are capable of having created such a poly crisis, right? And if we have to solve, we have to rise to a higher level of consciousness. So it's a crisis of consciousness. But equally, it's a crisis of leadership, right? Because from the time people started making decisions, some leader has made some decision which has led to the waste in our oceans, which has led to the rainforests being cut down, right? It's not just happened on its own. Some leader who had the agency and the power has made those decisions. So today, if we find ourselves in a poly crisis, it's because our leaders have failed us. It's because our leadership models have failed us. And we all have to participate in taking the ownership of that, right? My daughter was here yesterday. I don't know how many of you saw her. So when she was doing her art and art history from Goldsmiths, and then she did her cultural economics from Erasmus, so she's, just full of this pain and anger against us, right? Like, it's on your beat that you tanked the planet, Mom. And I said, yeah, you're right. You're right. I remember the 70s, I remember the 80s, and I remember the downhill slide began there. All this industrial farming and so on. So, the current hyper-masculine business, governance, and leadership model is inadequate. And when I use the word masculine and feminine, I don't use it in a gender way, okay? It's an orientation inside all of us. If you were from the East, you would use words like yin and yang, right? That inside all of us, there comes this polarity. There's two ways. There's an active principle in us, and there's a receptive principle in us. If you come from the yogic tradition, it's called Shiva, which is your consciousness, and Shakti, which is the energy that then creates from that consciousness. So there's a duality to things. So when we use the word masculine and feminine, it's coming from that approach. It's not gender. It's regardless of gender, right? The current hyper-masculine business governance and leadership model is inadequate. Feminization is needed to restore balance. It's not that feminine is better, it's just missing, and we need balance, right? Women are critical to the economy, ecology, technology, and peace process. Now, this is enough data out there, which is why SDG 5 is so clearly mentioned in the Sustainable Development Goals. It's time to end the battle of the sexes. This is something I'm very passionate about. You can't put the shoe on the other foot, make men wrong and, go and empower women alone and leave the men behind. That's not going to work either. So it is time to end the battle of the sexes and become fully human. We urgently need leaders who are two things. A, they are conscious, meaning they show self-mastery and are in selfless service of a higher purpose beyond self-interest. Okay? And two, they are integrated, meaning they express both healthy competitive masculine and collaborative feminine values and behaviors. Okay? We need both. It's time for a new leadership model on a new power base that creates a world that works for all. So from the time I was a kid growing up in India, the breakfast table conversation, Dad would open the paper and it would begin. Oh, so-and-so came into power, so-and-so lost power. And then this one now is grabbing for power. And that word power was everywhere. And this little mind of mine, 6-year-old, listening to these breakfast conversations, I realized the game is about power. Everyone seems to be grabbing this thing called power, right? Years later, I come to yoga and Shakti and understand that there's enough for all. There's more power than we know what to do with, but we simply don't know how to access it and exercise it consciously, that in a way that works for all. So, yeah, we need a new power base, not the ones we have been working off. It's time for Shakti. So what is Shakti? Shakti is one of the genius and enduring legacies of India. This morning I was so happy to hear Papaji speaking. He was giving us a beautiful cultural elixirs from his tradition, right? And I am like a pig sniffing for truffles around the world. I go looking for these civilizational elixirs, these big ideas that I believe can save the world. Whether it is Ubuntu from Africa, Ikigai from Japan, right? There are so many of these one word, Tikkun Olam, 2 words, right? There are these simple distilled ideas that contain an entire wisdom in it, right? Big ideas that can save the world. And I really want to curate all these big ideas that are the elixirs different civilizations, heroes' journeys brought back, right? And if we can put together all those civilizational elixirs, I'm convinced we will find the mosaic of the solution to our big problems today, right? So, what is Shakti? Shakti is one such big idea that comes from the Indic civilization. We have words like dharma, yoga, right? But it's time for us to now know Shakti. Shakti is the innate, infinite, intelligent power of existence. So we have a word in India also called Ananda, which means bliss, right? And Ananda is the understanding that there is an innate bliss or delight to existence itself. The nature of reality, the substance of reality is bliss, right? So it's called, we are made of Ananda. We come from Ananda and we go back to that and abide in that. So in the same way, there is a force. So of course, thanks to George Lucas and Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi, we know the word, right? May the force be with you. That is Shakti. It's also mana, from the way you described mana this morning, Papaji, right? And every tradition that is truly wise and deep and understands the force field in which everything is created and held and transformed, any culture that knows it has a name for it. So our name for it from India is Shakti. It's innate, it's infinite, it's intelligent, it has purpose, right? So it's regenerative and creative, and therefore it's called the mother. Why? Because it's the source from which all force arises and from which all creation comes. It animates consciousness. So consciousness is considered Shiva, and we say Shiva without Shakti is Shava, meaning dead, inert, sterile. It's just awareness, going nowhere, doing nothing, right? But for it to go somewhere and do something and create, that animating force that picks it up is Shakti. That is that mother creative principle, right? So Shiva without Shakti is sterile, but equally, Shakti without Shiva, some kind of a grounding consciousness then you have chaos, right? So there we're back to that wonderful duality that contains everything. Shakti fuels evolution, drives all change. That is why we need it in leadership. So think about it. There is an innate evolutionary intelligence in the system. First, it created plants out of minerals. It created animals out of plants. It's created humans out of animals. Clearly, evolution can't be satisfied with such a half-baked version of creation, right? We still have ways to go. Consciousness is still evolving, and that evolutionary force moving us forward is Shakti. So why do we need Shakti in leadership, right? Yes, it's a force that's evolving everything, but why do we bring it to leadership? Shakti in leadership is the power of presence. And we need presence, and we need power in our presence to drive the change we are called to as leaders, right? We are here to be change makers. So presence brings equanimity. All the wonderful mindfulness practices which put you in this state of yoga, chitta, vritti, nirodha, which is like your mind is just this crystal clear, empty space. That's beautiful. But where are you going with it? Right? Then you need an accompanying power to your presence, which provides creative energy to innovate conscious outcomes. You need inspired energy. You need that intuitive hit to say, this is what you do next, right? You need those creative ideas to come and find you those solutions. That comes not from your usual rational mind, again, quoting Einstein, right? The reason is meant to be the servant. The master is the intuitive mind. So when you're in your presence, which is not in your ego and your rational mind, with that comes this amazing creative energy. That will give you the solutions we are all looking for. So now let's move into the idea of presence. So I'm going to have two parts to my session. In the first, I'm going to explain what is presence, and we will do a presence practice. And in the second half, we will understand what is psychological wholeness, because we want to be whole, right? And as leaders, the kind of wholeness that we really need is psychological wholeness, which we'll come to in the second half. So I love describing presence through pictures, because not all of us know how to just listen to the words and get it. So you see a beautiful swan or duck come across the lake, looks smooth, graceful, gorgeous, makes it look easy. Have you looked under the surface? It's paddling furiously. It looks so busy, right? I remember the first time I saw that duck paddling, I had a bit of, how busy it looks, so different. The surface, gracious, smooth, beautiful, and underneath, hard work, right? Now, why do I use this picture to show presence? Is because as leaders who need to be present, you can't fake it. You can't just pretend. You need to put in the work, right? To show up in this state of graciousness, in a state of calm, a leader has to put in the work. Presence is not an accident. It takes practice, right? And when you are present, you become this psychologically safe space for people who work with you. And that's another big quality needed in leadership today. When you are present, you're also someone who holds all those moving parts together, even as the river rages around you. The storm of life is constantly raging around us. Now, when that happens, do you disintegrate? Or do you have something in you that keeps you together? That stops you from falling apart, right? Now, if you have that grounding, centering axis that you have cultivated and put in the work for over the years, when those raging storms come, you hold together. You don't fall apart, right? So that is why that's another picture to describe the power and the benefit of presence. You have a physical body, you have an emotional body, you have a mental body, you have a relational body, you have a spiritual body, you have ecological body, right? All those are different parts. We're like the Matryoshka doll. We have many, many, many selves. Now, how do they all stay together, hang together? Presence. From the work of the Enneagram, which is a personality typing tool which we work with a lot and I adore, I'm sure you've all heard of the Enneagram, right? there is this understanding that there are 9 types of personalities in the world, typically. And each of those come from one of 3 centers in ourselves. So when we lose presence, so let me explain that statement. Presence is a state in which you have nothing to defend, promote, or fear, and are completely available to the moment. Right? So typically what happens according to Enneagram theory, when we lose presence, we tend to rush to one of 3 places. We either rush into our gut and we get into defense, fight, flight, survival, right? We've lost presence. Or we rush into our heart and we become emotionally needy. We want to please others so that we will be validated and liked, right? We don't feel so insecure anymore, right? So we have something to promote. Or we rush into our head, and this is the usual one. We start future tripping, anxiety about what can go wrong in the next moment, or shame and guilt about all that we did wrong in the past. When we are in the past or we are in the future, where are we not? We're not in the present. And where is presence? Presence is in the present moment. Right? So what is the practice? The practice is something that takes all of 10 minutes. And we've been teaching this for years. It gathers all the meditation tools and techniques, the best practices from around the world, and puts it together in a very simple 10-minute audio. Okay? And I'll share it with you after this session, so you can please practice 10 minutes every day and learn to cultivate all those internal planes and parts of your being so that they hang together in presence. So the first signal of presence is a relaxed body. From a relaxed body comes the next, which is your breath, an even breath. You go even subtler than that, which is the manokosh, the mind. You clear your mind. So I'm not using my Sanskrit language for this, but it's all very yogic here. And beyond the clear mind is the open heart, the capacity to reveal and receive and be vulnerable and understand other people's vulnerabilities without judgment. Right? From there come these 2 last qualities of conscious leaders, because leaders need to be context aware. It's not just about managing yourself, it's also about knowing what's happening with your team and people around you. So we say develop a sensitive sonar, sharpen your 5 senses with presence, take in more information. Now for those among us who are empaths, sometimes you get a little concerned when you hear the word sensitive sonar. Like, people who are empaths are already taking in too much energy and information, and their senses are overwhelmed. So for them, I would say, please, everything with discernment, everything with boundaries. Okay, so, but please, take in sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and take in more of information to be more informed, right? And the last signal of presence is an energetic induction. So when you are present, is a very powerful energy, a vibration that emanates from you like a tuning fork. And others who are around you cannot remain absent. When you are present, you very naturally invite others into their presence. Now 2 people can be present together, right? So this power of induction is also something that comes when you cultivate presence, right? I'll be taking you through this process, and then we do what's called a Maha Mantra, which is like the great affirmation, like the, the supreme secret of returning to presence when you lose it. You've got to be able to chant with me or speak aloud, affirm with me. The reality of this moment is that I have nothing to defend. You'll step back from your gut. The reality of this moment is that I have nothing to promote, and you will step back from your heart. The reality of this moment is that I have nothing to fear, and you'll step back from your head. And then you're going to stand in your spine, breathe up and down your spine, which is that central nervous system, the vagus nerve. Everyone's talking the science of this these days. You return to your vagus nerve and you regulate your central nervous system. You breathe up and down and you affirm. The only reality of this moment is that I am here now. Right? All I need is within me. Because remember, in coaching, we are told each of us is born creative, resourceful, and whole. Each of us. Right? That's true. All I need is within me. All I need comes to me. This is where I remember I'm not some eddy current outside the matrix. I'm part of the evolutionary matrix. I'm part of this intelligent universe that flows. So all I need comes to me, all I need flows through me. Just making these affirmations puts you back in a state of flow, right? And you are open to synchronicities. Right things will start happening at the right time when you are present. Right? Then, or then the final three. I am enough, I have enough, and there is enough for all. Why have we put these there? Because these are all the ways in which we tend to lose presence, right? We fall into poverty consciousness, scarcity consciousness. Because I am not enough, I don't have enough brains, beauty, money, whatever, right? Nose, who knows, but, right? So, I am not enough, I don't have enough, and there isn't enough. So grab more for yourself. Like Lynn Twist, her famous book, The Soul of Money, she says the 3 toxic myths we have bought about life and about money and power and everything is that there isn't enough, so more is better. And that's just the way it is. You've got to play that scarcity game, right? So how do we unhook from those toxic beliefs and reprogram with some good belief systems, right? I am enough, I have enough, and there is enough for all to share. So, let's practice presence. Ready? Now that you know what we're going to do. Please put your feet on the floor, uncross the legs, straighten the spine. Put everything away, all distractions. Right. We will first begin with the relaxed body. So squeeze the head and neck muscles tight and release. Take a breath. And as you exhale, squeeze the torso tight and release. You can put both hands out, make the thumbs in and fingers curled over. Stiffen the arms tight and drop, release. Keep breathing. As you exhale, now squeeze the hips, the thighs, the knees, calves, ankles, feet and toes tight and release. With your eyes half closed, do not drift away. Stay with my instruction. Notice how you inhale and notice how you exhale. From the relaxed body, I want you to move into the even breath. As you inhale, notice how your chest expands, belly balloons, and as you exhale, belly flops, chest drops. Inhaling, chest expands, belly balloons, and exhaling, belly drops, chest flops. Inhaling and exhaling. Body relaxed, breath is even. Moving even subtler, let's shift to the mind. I want you to use the power of imagination now. Imagine going into your brain and turning the brain into a liquid lake high on a mountain top. Imagine it's a beautiful, crystal clear, sunny day. Now as your body is relaxed and your breath is even, the lake of your mind is turning clear and calm. Imagine the lake of your mind has no ripple on the surface, no turbidity in the water, no moss growing on it. Imagine the lake of your mind is empty, clear, and calm, just pure water. Step to the edge of the lake now and look down. The surface of the lake of your mind mirrors back at you your essence, your soul, your true self. This is the best version of you smiling back at you now. There's such a sense of welcome that you wish to merge with this essence that you are, beyond the body, breath and mind. So as you keep breathing, you start walking into the lake of mind, step by step, until the waters rise up and touch your heart very gently. Take a deep breath and imagine your heart blossoming open now, like a lotus or a rose. Feel your heart open and imagine yourself stepping through a gateless gate and coming to stand inside what's known as the Sacred Heart. It's a beautiful, vast chamber of love light inside your heart space. And you imagine and feel a pillar of light, a pillar of love that's going through your spine, connecting heaven above with earth below. And this is your presence. This is your pure essence, most loving energy inside your being. So like a child come home, you want to merge with that. So take another soft breath and step inside this pillar of love light. And allow yourself to be embraced by the most loving presence you can feel. And your whole being starts melting into this love light. Surrender, offer the body, the breath, the mind, the emotions, everything to this presence. You feel a flow of Shakti, a beautiful, universal, powerful, conscious energy flowing through the central axis of your spine. And it starts washing you clean, bathing you, showering you from the inside and outside. Keep breathing, discharge all excess into Mother Earth for her use. The whole being is relaxed, and now you can affirm after me. The reality of this moment, go ahead, is that I have nothing to defend. Let the gut relax. Step back from the heart and repeat. The reality of this moment is that I have nothing to promote. Let your heart relax. Step back from the head. The reality of this moment is that I have nothing to fear. Breathe up and down the spine and repeat. The only reality of this moment is that I am here now. All I need is within me. All I need comes to me. All I need flows through me. Because I am enough. I have enough. And there is enough. Feeling yourself part of a vast interconnected universe of presence, unity consciousness, oneness. Sharpen your five senses with presence: sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. And send out a beautiful toroidal field of energy from your central axis in all directions, embracing people to the front, the back, and the sides of you, until all of us become a unified field of presence, rising in presence together. Take a deep breath and bring that presence into every cell of your body. It's as if you went into a dip in the most refreshing river, which is your inner Shakti flowing through you right now. And as you're coming out of there, wriggle your fingers and your toes. Move the head and neck from side to side. Rub your hands, nice and warm. Rub them. And as you slowly open your eyes, sweep the hands over your face, your temples, your ears. Wipe yourself down as if you've come out of a really nice, refreshing dip. Sweeping yourself awake and bringing yourself back to this moment in time and space. We are in Querétaro. Welcome here now. Maybe just one or two words. How are you feeling right now? Anyone?
Refreshed.
Refreshed? I'm loving looking at your face. It's always nice to see faces before and after any mindfulness practice. No? You can see the muscles having relaxed open. Your face is a real study right now. Thank you. Beautiful. Beautiful. So thank you. I wanted you to get a taste of what this is. And of course, all these things take practice. And if you were not able to quite get there, and instead this was more the feeling, right? Don't worry. This happens to the best of us. Especially we have our choo-choo trained mind, we're so busy, we're just not used to doing this kind of practice. But with practice, and I encourage you to do it for 21 days. Just give yourself 10 minutes every day for 21 days. And slowly this becomes muscle memory for you, right? And the next time you feel attacked in some way, emotionally, mentally, or physically, you will go down this neural pathway of presence instead of going down the bad habit of absence. Right? So you have to override your bad habits with good habits. And that's how it works. It's really about training the mind and training the body. Right? And you do the simple thing every day and it gets better. So moving to the second half of this session, to come into your full power, you need to become a whole person. It's good to be present, but it's not easy to stay present. Right? To stay present, you need to achieve what we call wholeness. Right? So I'm going to talk about psychological wholeness particularly. There are many other forms of wholeness, but for today's session, we focus on psychological wholeness. In the Indic tradition is this concept, this archetype, and we say a conscious leader is a whole person. Right? It's called the Ardha Narishwar. That all of us, regardless of gender, are masculine and feminine, right? We are Shiva and we are Shakti in equal measure. It's the dance of these two inside each of us in a unique way that creates every individual. Our consciousness and our energy creates the unique person we are. So all of us, regardless of gender, have masculine and feminine orientation, consciousness and energy, active and receptive principles. So Carl Jung uses the word inner wedding, right? If you want to become whole, you want to come into your full power, you need to be a whole person. And for that, you need to achieve the inner wedding. The inner wedding is the dance of love and power, right? So we say your heartful man has to marry your mindful woman. It's all happening inside each one of us regardless of gender. Now, if you identify more with your male or masculine side, you have to learn to say yes, open your boundaries up to vulnerability and find love. That's your path to wholeness. But if you identify more with female and feminine, it's the complementary opposite path to wholeness. You have to learn to say no. You have to create healthy boundaries to gain security and reclaim power lost in the patriarchy. Right? So you finally come to the same place, but you come at it from different directions depending on which one is your preferred orientation. Okay? Psychological wholeness goes goes one step further in what I call the Holy Family Reunion. So from the work of Jung, he says we have to individuate. In order to individuate, you have to become your own parent and your own child. This is the Eric Berne work of transaction analysis, right? Have access from an aware adult place, have access to your healthy parent, have access to your healthy child. Jung says that's not enough, you have a second piece to go, which is if you are male, you need to find your inner woman. If you are female, you need to find your inner man, right? And in Shakti leadership, we put this fourfold self together and we say, you have to become the wise fool of tough love. Right? If there's nothing you remember from today, please remember this one thing. Am I the wise fool of tough love? Because at any moment when you find yourself stuck or challenged, there's a good chance you've lost one of these four. Right? Maybe you're overdoing the wise and not enough fool. The wise is the parent energy, fool is that child. Or you're overdoing the tough, the masculine, and not enough love, feminine. Right? And finally, it's about having all four archetypes, all four energies available to you from a place of presence. And flexing the right one at the right time to the moment. Right? So situational. Sometimes you're being too wise when you need to lighten up and be foolish. Sometimes you're being too tough when you need to just relax and bring in more compassion and love. Right? It's like hot and cold running water. At any given time, you need one of these four. You do not need a fifth one. And as long as you are present, you ask yourself, which one am I overdoing and which one am I not leveraging? And then dial up and dial down. And you will move through your stuck situation. That's why Jung calls it the fourfold self. There is no fifth. Okay? There's a lot to this, but I don't have time. Maybe later over dinner. The purpose of polarity. Why do things come in pairs in the first place? Polarity is not a bug, it's a feature of the system's design. If you did not have a horseshoe magnet, you would not generate current. Right? So every system needs energy, fuel to run. Where does it come from? It comes from polarity built into it. Right? So masculine, feminine, yin, yang, call it whatever you want to call it. But the two who work together to generate a creative tension which unlocks energy to run a system. Otherwise, everything would remain static, dull, potential energy alone. Right? So polarity is a necessary part of the system. How do we work with our polarities then? That's the question. Okay? So this is where I ask you to take out your worksheets. You've all been given 2 pieces of paper. Take the one underneath. Yeah. So you will see the first polarity map. We have to learn to flex between our wise, our fool, and between our tough and our love. Right? So flexing between masculine and feminine power traits. Typically, this is the work of Barry Johnson called polarity thinking. Again, I keep referencing Papali from this morning. He was talking about the dialectic, right? So it's always about the two that you have to leverage and work with. If you don't do that, you'll have the worst of both. If you don't get the best of both, you will be doomed to have the worst of both, right? So what you don't want is to block your Shakti. What you want is to release your full power. For that, you need to get the best of your feminine and you need to get the best of your masculine. So let's do the work. What does healthy feminine look like? Can someone please read out these qualities for me, Carlos? Just read them out.
Empathy, gentleness, inclusion, nurturing, openness, creativity, variety, flavor, trust, vulnerability, and harmony.
Beautiful, thank you. So this is not a complete list. I asked a group such as you, come on, give me some healthy feminine words. This is what they gave me, okay? So you may put them somewhere else, but this is just making a point. Now the reason we're looking at the world in a very unhealthy and judgmental way towards the masculine is because of the loss of the feminine, the masculine has become toxic and hyper-masculine. So what we are seeing now, Bilal, could you read these out?
Aggressive, cruel, mechanical, arrogant, insensitive, violent, power-hungry, and spiritually empty.
wife who gave me these words, okay? Not my words. Let's not forget, the feminine can be toxic too. When it loses balance with the healthy masculine, it too falls below the line and can show up in this very hyper way. Would anyone from this group read out? Thais?
Vulgar, sentimental, needy, dependent, exploited, focused, irrational, weak, manipulative.
I always tell people take a deep breath. Because suddenly you spot yourself here, right? I've been there, done that. Let's not forget the masculine can be beautiful and is still very needed at all times. Beautiful, positive, healthy masculine qualities. We've all trained for it. It's all measured and rewarded in the workplace and in school and in college. We're good at this stuff. Ken?
Clarity, assertiveness, focus, direction, order, discipline, structure, discernment, strength, convergence.
Beautiful, right? Yes. Get the job done. Get on with it. Stop talking forever, right? Yeah. So, how do you work a polarity map? The work we have to do is to be above the line and stay in this beautiful inhale and exhale between the best of both. Because as Barry Johnson says, if you choose only one and neglect the other, it's like saying, I only want to inhale and not exhale. You will die. This is the secret of polarity. You need both. And certainly masculine, feminine orientation, that yin-yang orientation, the active, receptive, the consciousness, the energy principle, is the primary foundational polarity to keep life going. Why do we think we can deny one and only leverage the other? That's why we have all the problems in the world today. Right? We are suffocating because we are not breathing. Right? So if we don't do the best of both, we are doomed to have the worst of both. There is no only one and not the other. Okay? So how do you work a polarity map? Our job is to remain above the line. For that, let's identify an early warning. Suppose I have hung around in my healthy feminine for too long, and I have forgotten to balance with my healthy masculine. Typically, what will happen? Slowly, I start falling below the line. I'll start displaying some of these behaviors. So identify your early warning sign when you're falling below the line. In my case, I become needy. I have identified this as my bad habit. When I become hyperfeminine, a kind of neediness starts coming up. Now I know how to spot it. I have to insert pause, return to presence, take a step, go across the board, and do something that is healthy masculine. The minute I do something that's healthy masculine, I have lifted myself back above the line. Right? So in my case, my antidote to neediness, I have identified as self-care. It's perfect. Put my oxygen mask on myself instead of waiting for someone else to rescue me. I'm good at that. Right? So why am I waiting for someone to come and take care of me? Get on with it, Neelima. Do the self-care. Right? The minute I do the self-care, I'm in my happy place again. Suppose I hang around here for very long. Sure enough, I forget this. I will start falling below the line. And now I start displaying some unhealthy masculine behavior. So please, as I'm giving you my example, I want you to be thinking of your bad habits and your good strengths. Okay? My bad habit is I become judgmental. This is something I'm very good at. I can spot weaknesses in everyone the minute I see them. I'm so smart. Right? But now I know, oops, that's the unhealthy masculine voice in you. Neelima, stop. You've fallen below the line. Take the action step and go across and do something that is healthy, feminine to return balance. Right? What is one of my superpowers? That is healthy, feminine. It is a capacity for compassion. There's a practice in Buddhism called karuna. You sit with your metta practice, loving kindness, until you feel compassion bubble up from your heart for yourself and for everybody. Right? I put in years of work doing this. means I'm good at it. I can go there, right? And it's the best antidote to judgment. You can't be compassionate towards someone while you're judging them. So the best way to stop judging is to start finding something to feel compassionate about towards that very person. Sure, maybe they haven't had the privilege I have had. Maybe they've had some kind of a trauma in their background. Maybe that's why they are showing up the way they are. I can see what's failing in them, but I can be compassionate about it instead of judging, right? So as you can see, as long as I can inhale and exhale between care for self and boundaries and compassion for others, care for self and compassion for others, as long as I can be in this beautiful dance of inhale and exhale between these two healthy ways of being, with my masculine and my feminine, from a place of presence, I stop myself from falling below the line and experiencing the worst of both, which is neediness and judgment. Right? So can you please do the work? Do your work. Please identify your early warnings and where can you go with action step. Your early warnings are your bad habits. Your action steps are your superpowers. Find a superpower that's uniquely yours, that's an easy go-to. Don't create something that you haven't yet cultivated, because then you'll not come out of the pit, right? You want to pull yourself out quickly. So please identify a superpower that is healthy feminine, healthy masculine, and healthy feminine, and put that as your action step, right? Find your bad habits when you are hyper-feminine and when you are hyper-masculine. What are your superpowers that you're good at, that you can leverage in the moment, that is healthy feminine and healthy masculine. This stuff can save marriages, I'm told. Relationships, many things. Okay, who can give me an example? Give me one example of when you become hyper-feminine and now what you can do to become healthy masculine again. Who wants to share? Okay.
Hyper-feminine is smothering and sentimental,
Yes.
and healthy
Yes.
is discernment.
Yeah. Beautiful. And discernment is a very good way out of your sentimentality, right? And so being hijacked by that emotion. Lovely, thank you. What about the opposite one? When do you get hyper-masculine and what can you do to be healthy feminine? Anybody else? Yes?
Sure. Okay. So in my unhealthy masculine, I wind up feeling numb, and I related that to being spiritually empty, and it's all connected to judgment and emptiness and overanalysis.
Nice.
And the thing that I can bring from the action step is creativity and gentle creativity, sweetness in creativity.
Nice. Beautiful. Beautiful. So you all have identified two action steps, one healthy feminine and one healthy masculine, right? Super. Let's do the other one, because remember it's a fourfold self. So what's the other polarity? The wise fool. The parent in us and the child in us. You don't want to block your Shakti, you want to release your power. You have to leverage your wise parent and your fool child. The word fool comes from the Sufi tradition, which is a high consciousness. When you have transcended the usual adulthood, which is so strong, egoic, and you can return to the innocence and simplicity of some wonderful people in this room, right? So there is like this sweetness that we return to, that innocence we return to. That is called the fool. It's a high spiritual capacity, actually. Okay, so don't look at it in a negative way. What are some positive parental qualities? Would you read that out? Great.
Unity and purpose, legacy and impact, forgiveness, acceptance, transcendence, unity, expansiveness, selflessness.
Beautiful, right? We all need this. And when we forget this, we become hyper toxic child, right? Would you go? Yes. The
Reckless, irresponsible, self-indulgent, tribalistic, patient, gallows, stubborn, distracted, inattentive.
We can all do this, right? Especially as teachers, we see this in classrooms all the time. Even with our so-called adult children classes, right? What about focusing too much on being parental and wise and forgetting to take that innocence along? That too can get toxic. Okay, you're smiling, you go. Dogmatic,
Dogmatic, superstitious, fanatical, blind faith, rigid, cynical, resigned, apathetic.
apathetic. Right? Let's not forget the beautiful child that redeems us. At the end of the day, I wish all of the leaders in our world were in touch with their healthy inner child. We wouldn't be killing each other, right? So what is it that we need to have? Go ahead, Alejandra.
Joy, wonder, curiosity, creativity, innocence, playfulness, truth, humor, simplicity.
Yes. So we do the work. We want to have the best of both, otherwise we are doomed to have the worst of both. How to stay above the line, identify your early warning when you become too parental. In my case, I become rigid. I have this feeling I've studied so much, I've done so much, I know it best, right? I know it. I tend to get a little rigid in my worldview. Now I know that is being toxic parent. What do I have to do? Go across the board, leverage some healthy child energy. In my case, I identify that as creativity. From the time I was a kid, I was creating stuff. I was making things with my hands, I was writing poems, I was writing short stories, making up stuff. I love, and I call it living the mytho-poetic life today, right? Don't look at life as something ordinary. Make a high-quality story from it. You'll have so much more fun, right? So I have that capacity to put on that creative lens. That comes from my inner child. But suppose I hang around in inner child for too long, I forget the parental, I will fall below the line and become toxic child. In my case, I know I have gone below the line when I become distracted, become inattentive. I can't listen to people anymore, I'm just gone, right? So now I know I have fallen below the line into my unhealthy child. When I become distracted, inattentive, I have to insert pause, go across the board, get present, take an action step, intentionally of healthy parent. In my case, my capacity for meaning making and finding a higher purpose in a situation is one of my superpowers. I enjoy doing that and I'm good at that, right? So, there you go. The minute I'm making meaning and purpose from a situation, I can't be inattentive and distracted because my full curiosity is engaged now, right? I'm fully present again. So, as long as I can be in this beautiful, creative, meaning-making, I'm in my best parent-child partnership. Right? When I forget to do one or both, I am both rigid and distracted. Terrible place to be. Okay? So please do the work. Identify your early warnings and your action steps. Early warnings are your bad habits. Action steps are your superpowers. have and the second, right? I want you to now fill in at the top of the worksheet where it says, I am the wise fool of tough love when I am A, B, C, and D. So in my case, I am the wise fool of tough love when I am making meaning creatively and exercising self-care with compassion. That is my highest self and expression. That is when I am in my full power and my full Shakti and in my presence. And then you experience life in a flow state. Right? So can you please identify your power statement? I am the wise fool of tough love when I am being A, B, C, and D. Please identify your 4 action steps and put them in there. This is your power statement. This is who you are when you are psychologically whole. Does that capture you? Is that your best version? Let's get one call out. I am the wise fool of tough love when I am. Angie? You have your 4?
My meaning and purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Brings acceptance and find wonder and joy.
Super. Super. Everyone got your power statement? Because if you got it, I really encourage you to put it as a screensaver somewhere. Okay? Because next time you feel lost, just go back and look at those 4 superpowers of yours. Any one of them should get you out of your stuck situation. It's already inside you. You're good at it. Right? You just have to leverage it. You just have to act on it. Okay? So in closing, the journey through the 5 elements of Shakti leadership, this is the bigger model. We practice presence. From presence we come into our Shakti, our power. We become psychologically whole. We learn to flex between these 4-fold selves, wise fool of tough love. Then we do the work of congruence, which is finding our purpose and living our life on purpose. And then, of course, we understand the hero journey is something we all are going to have to make to come into each of these 5 elements. They will not be given to us on a platter. We're going to have to die in some way in order to be born into these. Right? Nothing comes without a death and a resurrection. This is the Shakti leadership model. And what I offer here today, okay, of course, in closing, exercise your full power from presence, be the wise fool of tough love. It's time to restore gender relations, become the whole man, whole woman, whole person, whole leader. It's time to rise in love together. As we're going to the end of patriarchy, women are rising. There's a lot of conflict among genders, identities, and relationships, and so on. It's time to rise in love together and not fall in love and make each other lesser than we are. Our mission is to build 100,000 Shakti leaders. By 2030, we'll collaborate to create peace, prosperity, and beauty through the exchange of multiple forms of capital. So join the movement. You can get certified as a Shakti leader. We have a 12-week group self-study course. I'm offering it for free to today's audience if you sign up in the next 2 weeks. But you have to complete it in 9 months. It should take you 3. You have to complete it in 9 months. If you don't, then you pay for it. Okay? So that's the offer from today. That's our first cohort of our Shakti Fellowship with University of San Diego. So get certified, join the mission, write to me at nilima.bhatt@tech.mex. I also want to leave us with this campaign that's coming up next week. Every year, around the full moon of July, we run what's called the Truth and Reconciliation Work Week, and it's about work we do from the inside out. There are 2 tracks. One is healing collective trauma. The other is to lead inclusive peace. And this year's theme is healing our histories and decolonizing ourselves. It'll happen from the 21st to the 27th of July. It's a self-organizing movement. Anyone, anywhere can just put together an event and we will socialize it for you. We'll cross-promote it. So if you want, just write to me. I'll send you the DIY kit on how you can do your own event, and we will cross-promote everything together. So it's what I call a self-organizing global movement, right? Stand for Truth and Reconciliation. This is a very core part of the peace work that Shakti Leadership Mission is involved with. So with that, thank you very much. That was my last slide. Nothing will make me happier than you finding your power statement, okay? So please don't leave without finding your power statement, writing that for yourself. So, do we have, maybe we have 1 minute or no, I don't know. We have 2 minutes. Does anyone have a question? 2 minutes. Yeah. I zipped through.
Well, I'm excited to join the Shakti Leadership Training, and I'm just wondering if becoming certified, I think, would mean that you could generate this kind of understanding that you just created today.
Very much.
As a leader, that would be wonderful.
Very much. In fact, once you get the certification, you're welcome to mastermind the same course with your students. Right? So, keeps rippling it out. Comment? Questions? Bilal.
I really enjoyed all of the whole experience, and I really liked the breathing in and out and going between things. But I think because of my own personal history, I have a really hard time finding the positive masculine. It's like a blank box for me right now. I'm like, assertive. And you said to pick something that's really nice and easy, and I'm just wondering, I don't know, am I the only dude in here like that, or yeah, just.
Thank you, Bilal. You're making such an important point. Such an important point. The patriarchy has wounded not just women but men as well, right? So you either end up over leveraging the masculine, or you end up completely denying it and going away from it. Neither keeps us in a state of flow and balance, right? So the opposite happened with me. By the way, I can also share with you like a leadership styles assessment, which you can take, and it will give you which of the 4 archetypes you are strong with, which is the one you lead with, right? So this woman in one of my courses, she was a strong feminist, right? And she did the test, and at the end of it, she just went to the back of the room and she stayed there for the rest of the course. Why? She discovered she had 0 feminine leadership qualities. She was completely masculine. And she is a feminist, right? She was so blown away by that, right? So Bilal, thank you for sharing. I think the road to healing your relationship with the masculine is an invitation. I had a great dad. He passed away 4 months ago. The love of my life. Everything wonderful about the masculine, I got from him. So yeah, some of us are fortunate. We know what the healthy masculine looks like, you know? And we want to have that.